Alright, Ayo Deacon, what is going on today? This is now my official review of The Empire of Death, Doctor Who, and just the season as a whole. So, without any further ado, let's jump straight into this. Start off, make sure you like and subscribe, like you've just seen in that title sequence. But the real question is, was season 1 and The Empire of Death good enough? Did it live up to everyone's expectations? Now, personally, I would say no. It was again a very simple ending for the season. And for, Sutekh as a whole. But yeah. Okay, so to start, we'll just start off with The Empire of Death. Now, it was okay. But I don't see why it was in cinemas. Because it wasn't a big... They were making out like to be this really big event. This really big thing. And in which... It sort of was, Sutekh's return was decent, but now, as we're on the topic of Sutekh's return, he was severely underused. So, in the actual episode, he didn't really do much. He kind of just sat on top of the TARDIS, sat around it, and, chilled. We didn't actually see like a proper fight, and I can tell the fan base was annoyed and is annoyed that we didn't get to see Sutekh in his classic look, which was sort of explained. But this season finale, it kind of left more questions than answers, and I'll get into that literally right now. So, with the questions it left, it did leave many questions. Like it's stated earlier in the episode, quite early on in the episode, that Sutekh was virtually hitchhiking the TARDIS since the Fourth Doctor's serial. So, but that brings on a lot of plot holes. So in the Day of the Doctor, where you've got the 3 TARDISes, does that mean there's 3 Suteks just chilling next to each other? In the Time of the Doctor, in the Name of the Doctor, when we see that large dead TARDIS, I mean that is one from the future, but from far in the future. But does that mean Sutekh was dead on top of that, or does it mean Sutekh's just a huge ass giant, and Captain Jack, in the episode Utopia, in series 3 of New Who, when he clung onto the TARDIS, does that mean Sutekh was literally above him? And same with Clara as well, when she held onto the TARDIS throughout time. Does that mean... I don't know. And then when we've seen multiple TARDISes as well, does that mean... Yeah, it leaves too many plot holes. In the episode, I think it was Listen, Capaldi sitting on the top of the TARDIS with his legs crossed and everything. Does that mean he's sitting on top of Sutekh? On his head? So yeah, just from that, too many plot holes. Now another complaint: Ruby's mother. Now she did get it. It was answered, but I didn't like how so much hype throughout this season to who Ruby's mother was going to be, and with this, it never got answered why it snowed when Ruby thought of the past, when she thought of that day on Ruby Road, or whatever. Why did Carol of the Bells, or whatever the song was, play? What was the hidden song inside Ruby's soul that Maestro talked about? Why was the Trickster's music hinted at in The Devil's Chord? Too many unanswered questions. That is the problem. And then plot holes as well. But yeah, Ruby's mother was just an ordinary person. Now, I sort of liked that, but I sort of didn't. Because one, there was so much hype around who Ruby's mother could have been. It could have been, you could have made a twist on the Trickster. You could have had like a female Trickster instead. Could have seen how that, could have saw how that played out. It could have been, and also why was Ruby's mother in a cloak? I mean, she was 15 for one. I'm 16, and I mean, I don't really see many people going around in cloaks. Bit odd. But yeah, that's sort of understandable why she's in a cloak. Back in that time, it was 2004, so there's CCTV. That's understandable. But it's also the fact that I think it was answered in a very vague way. Why did her face just not show up? And the pointing thing as well. I didn't like how she was pointing at Ruby's name. Just wasn't it, was it? It should have been she was pointing rather at the Doctor or at Sutekh. For some reason, maybe she could have been actually more, powerful and mystical than we actually thought, and she was actually pointing right at Sutekh. But no. Now we've got the few of the negatives out of the way, let's get to some positives for the episode. I really loved the first about 20 minutes of this episode. Up until we got to that kind woman bit, I loved that bit of the episode. I loved the callbacks in the memory TARDIS. I know we've seen it in Tales of the TARDIS, but I loved the callbacks. Like, you saw Jodie Whittaker's Sonic, you saw one of the classic Sonics. I think if you pause at the right moment, you can see loads of different Sonic screwdrivers. You can see the 14th Doctor Sonic screwdriver, the different bits of the TARDISes. The 10th and the 11th ones just stood out to me, and I think in the bit at the top you had the classic TARDIS console at the top, and then you had Capaldi's and Smith's light up roundels around the side at the top. Very cool. So now let's just continue and just look at some other things in the episode that I actually did like. I did like, before we actually went into the memory task, I did like the and after the callback to the original serial for Sutekh. That was, to be honest, a very cool moment just to see, even though it was just some old footage. It was cool to see Elizabeth Sladen and Tom Baker. But yeah, overall, the Empire of Death was very sort of disappointing, because all week they were teasing so many things, or we were speculating so many things, but at the end of the day, it didn't. We should have saw it coming that it would be a classic Russell ending. Now, something that I would have liked. Now, this is the things that I would have wanted to happen instead. So obviously we pick up straight away from where we left off, which was brilliant. I'd keep that the same. But on the TARDIS, I changed this bit of the actual TARDIS design, and this is a bit that has been lacking a bit over the past few years. The TARDIS, the exterior has not changed much. it's been the same since virtually Whittaker had it. Which, to be honest, I ain't really liked because, well, it kind of gets stale and boring. Let's have the 16th Doctor can change it up a bit. But where it says police public call box, like they did with Bad Wolf in series 2, and I think series 1, or definitely series 2. I think also in series 4, they changed from where it says police public call box to Bad Wolf. Now, I would have liked it. It might have been a bit cringy, it might have been a bit out there, but personally I thought, what if they changed it to saying rather Sutekh all the way around, or, which would be better, the Empire of Death all the way around, because he literally called the TARDIS his Empire of Death. That would be his throne, so it would have been cool. And then you could have kept the lighting consistent. But yeah, I would have also got rid of the because it was like 10 minutes you spent with that kind woman, which it was a bit of world building, but there wasn't really much added on to it. She kind of just got turned into dust, and then we saw her at the end of the episode with our baby. There wasn't any character development within it. So if you wanted to keep that, I'd say if you wanted that scene to stay in, you would need to make this into a 3-part finale. And that is what we'll get on to when we speak about the season as a whole, in literally a few minutes' time. But yeah, I would change that. So if we were keeping it as a 2-parter, I'll get rid of that scene completely. And obviously, I know some people said, like Who Culture, for example, have said it was a nice, good, it was well built, good, nice world building, but it was also because it was slow paced, it kind of made the episode more. But my view on it is, it was not necessary. If you took that out of the episode, the only bit that would be a bit confusing is how they got the spoon. But you could have easily just had a spoon lying around in the memory TARDIS, although that's just a memory, so might not have. But you could have just found a spoon anywhere. You could have found one on the floor. You could have found one literally anywhere. It's metal. So yeah, I would have also put in a bit more confrontation with Sutekh as well. So we actually utilised him. He wasn't just there. He's meant to be the god of death, the god of gods, and he was kind of just wasted. He was killed by getting dragged through the time vortex. He was killed by getting a rope and hooking him on, or like a leash, and like basically just dragging him like a dog. It's a very typical ending, and I mean, I don't see why we didn't see that coming. I really don't see why none of the fan base saw that coming with his new redesign. In which, with that, I did like his redesign. It did kind of make him look threatening, but at the same time, it kind of took away sometimes just a guy, a man, or even a woman, or just a living being. It doesn't have to be a big monster they face. It could just be. I think that's what makes Davros so good. He's just a guy. He's just a guy sitting down in a Dalek, thing. That's what makes him so. That's what made Sutekh so good in the original serial, in which I haven't watched yet, but I've seen good clips. But yeah, I'll change that. I'll make a bit more confrontation, a bit more depth into Sutekh, and because keep in mind they have not seen each other. Well, Sutekh's apparently seen the Doctor all this time, but keep in mind the Doctor hasn't seen Sutekh since the 4th Doctor's serial, the Pyramids of whatever it was. I think it was Pyramids of Mars. Was it? No, I don't know. But yeah, since that original 4th Doctor serial. So yeah, yeah, I'll change that. I'd also get a bit more. I also would have liked it if Sutekh had a few more like minion type things, because you had Mel, and then you had Mel, you had Susan Triad, and you had Harriet Harbinger. Harriet Harbinger did barely anything, except again that's later in the episode. Same with Susan Triad, well, sort of. And again, Mel, she was good in the first half, but then she was kind of there. She was there for the plot. She was just there. There's no purpose of Mel. If you took Mel out of the episode, all that would have got changed is the Doctor movie wouldn't have, got. But if Mel got dusted for argument's sake. So yeah, I just wish Mel had a bit more of a bit more of a contributing factor, not just there to suddenly become a companion or a minion or Sutekh. And I would have also, and this is now we're leading on to the season as a whole, I would have not got the 15th Doctor to cry as much. Keep in mind, the 15th Doctor, by that point, there's been 14 other incarnations and many more, because Timeless Child arc. So there's been hundreds of incarnations of the Doctor. So they've seen so much. The Doctor's seen so much. I mean, crying's beyond him, or her, or whatever. The crying's beyond him. So, yeah, I would get rid of I don't mind crying from the Doctor every so often. That's what made David Tennant in his first run so good, because he didn't cry all the time, but he cried when he needed to. Like when he just lost Rose in Doomsday, he cried a bit after that in the TARDIS until the Titanic went flying in. That's another thing with Sutekh being there all the time. The Titanic would have impaled him. But yeah, the Doctor crying all the time, it just kind of takes away from, he's a Time Lord. He's, God knows how old he is. You just, he's not just a human, it kind of makes him look weak, like a human. Now that's not down to Sutekh acting. His acting is good, his acting actually feels doctory. It very much feels like Matt Smith, and it very much feels Matt Smith-esque. Fun, bubbly, all that good stuff. Not the serious tone, but sometimes also a bit of David Tennant's as well, especially in series 2, I think. A bit more bubbly, a bit more. But I missed that seriousness, and he actually got serious in the Dot and Bubble episode. Now we're on to that. Let's just speak about the season as a whole, and then we'll close up the video. So overall, this season I'd rate it a good maybe 6.5 out of 10. It's not my most favourite season, but it was a good season nonetheless. I think it needed more episodes. 9 episodes for the Church on Ruby Road thing, that's including the Christmas special, is not enough. Considering when we also had ages for the Bad Wolf story arc. So I think 9 episodes wasn't long enough, and then some of a lot of them were just filler. I mean, Rogue, that is probably one of my least favourites. I've never watched Bridgerton, I probably never will. Didn't really like it. Didn't really like that episode. Dot and Bubble was good. That one was actually very good, in my opinion. I liked, especially at the end bit where the Doctor actually got frustrated. Why did we not see that in the finale? Who knows? But so overall 6.5 out of 10, maybe pushing it on to a 7. But it's not the best of seasons, especially for Russell T Davies coming back. But we'll see. Season 2 is probably next year. We've got the Christmas special written by Stephen Moffat this year. So we'll wait and see what happens. Still got no merchandise for the 60th or for this season, so I don't know. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. And like you can tell, with that, we'll close the video there. There'll be a different video, more about in depth with everything. But overall, the Empire of Death, it wasn't good enough. It didn't give us enough justice, but it was a nice close to this storyline. So with that, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.